Hey everybody, Coach Abel here, and today we're talking about metabolism mayhem. Why your metabolism may be broken and in need of repair. So this tends to happen more as people age, but I want to discuss the topic a little bit more in depth, step by step. So the first thing is, when you establish a pattern, even for a while, doing things incorrectly metabolically, you can upset a very vulnerable metabolic profile. Now, this shows up more in people as they age, as metabolism becomes more vulnerable to disruption and dysregulation for reasons I will outline below. Think of the major slow-moving conditions of ill health and when they hit people. They hit people when they age. Things like coronary heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes. These all tend to hit in terms of serious ramifications and consequences. These hit someone hardest as a person ages, even though the damage is a slow-moving type of damage that accumulates over years. While metabolism mayhem works exactly the same way, and that's what I'm going to discuss with you right now. So what you need to understand is the partitioning of fat into fat cells that make you bigger and way more and fatter is a lot more complicated than you may realize, and past damage to metabolism via stupid diets and deprivation diets, things like that, can make it harder for you to burn your own fat stores now, even in a calorie deficit. So some heavy people struggle to lose significant amounts of weight, even though they are following fairly restricted diets and fairly healthy diets. But that's because of metabolism mayhem created through the years that accumulates in terms of damage, dysregulation, and dysfunction. So when you add aging into this mix and the changes that occur with aging, this upset of metabolism, what I'm calling here metabolism mayhem, can become a broken metabolism in need of serious attention and repair. Now remember, this damage builds up over years and years, and it can seem dormant until it is not dormant, and then people are left, I don't understand. Why am I not losing weight? I'm following everything to the letter. That kind of thing. So they are addressing diet over and over again, but they're seldom, if ever, addressing metabolism specifically. So first of all, what you need to realize is that once you have created a fat-storing metabolism factory, all right, imagine a factory that's producing gadgets and widgets and everything, all right, and piece by piece and machine by machine. Once you've created a fat-storing metabolism factory, it is not so easy and instant a solution and shift to create a fat-burning metabolism factory. So just eat this and just count your calories and just use this app for calories in, calories out, this is not an absolute solution. These things are merely letter A among a whole alphabet of the approach to finding solutions to metabolism mayhem. And people don't seem to get that. They say they get it, they think they understand it, but they never ever apply it, and they go back to one diet after another. So in terms of gaining weight as you age, etc., let's look behind the curtain and understand metabolism. I even have a book called Understanding Metabolism that you can look at, as well as solutions in my book Beyond Metabolism. And we will either put those in the show notes for you or at least up here on the screen. But one of the things we need to stop doing is stop talking about losing weight. Weight loss is one thing, and those of you out there with damaged metabolisms and who are right now experiencing metabolism mayhem, you can attest to the fact that losing weight, especially from your past, can actually cause your rebound weight gain now and make it even harder for you to take off weight the next time you diet and the time after that. So oftentimes, metabolism mayhem is actually the consequence and ramifications of repeated diet failures from the past that don't consider and take into account metabolism and creating a fat burning metabolism factory, overcoming and changing the fat storing metabolism factory. So we should be talking about losing fat. All right. And people say they understand this, but what they still do, especially people who like to weigh themselves and who like to use calculations and apps and formulas and all the rest, is they stand on a scale and watch in frustration if the numbers don't move in some kind of arbitrary desired direction. But we know, for instance, I could put you on a low carb diet right now today if you're eating carbs, and 5 days from now you will have lost a substantial amount of weight. But that's not fat. You're not losing fat. You're just losing water and other extraneous types that show up on the scale. So that can do more harm than good long term. Losing fat specifically is about shrinking fat cells, plain and simple. It's like letting the air out of an inflated balloon, right? It doesn't mean those balloons are now gone. Right? You lose the weight, it doesn't mean that weight's gone forever, and most of you know that, but you don't acknowledge it and apply it or do anything about it, and that's where you get into trouble in terms of repeated weight loss, weight gain. So put the air back in a balloon and boom, you're right back to where you started again, because that's what fat cells do. They either shrink or they expand. And once you have your set fat cells early in life, they tend to stay that number unless you get liposuction and other things. But those things do not tend to have assertive, constructive, productive effects on metabolism. So you got to stop thinking about weight loss and this diet, this diet, this diet. You have to start thinking and seeing the bigger picture. It's about understanding the hormonal and biochemical metabolic drivers of fat. All right, so the metabolic drivers of fat there's two ways that this operates. De novo lipogenesis, which is fat storing, or lipolysis of fat cells, which is breaking down fat to use for energy, etc., etc. On one level and another level, hormonal and biochemical metabolic drivers impact metabolism directly and or indirectly in terms of either optimizing metabolism or disrupting and dysregulating metabolism. And that's where you end up in trouble and experiencing what I'm calling metabolism mayhem. So the metabolic drivers of fat is either driving fat into cells, creating more air in that balloon, or lipolysis, which is the fat burning and shrinking, letting the air out of that balloon. Now, the main hormone drivers to consider here are the sex hormones, testosterone and estrogen. Estrogen tends to be way more fat-philic or, fat-loving, fat-liking. Testosterone tends to be more fat-burning. I'll get to that in a minute. Other hormones are thyroid, of course, insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone with bias. I've talked about that a gazillion times here on the YouTube channel. You can just do a search under insulin or carbs or whatever and see my webinars on that. Hormone-sensitive lipase is another one. And then another key contributor to especially the building up of fat is the hormone cortisol. So of all these hormones, testosterone is a main hormonal supply chain to the fat-burning metabolism factory, while cortisol is a main hormonal supply chain to the fat-storing metabolism factory. So it's important that you understand these things and these drivers, hormonal drivers of fat storing versus fat burning. And some are very lipolytic and some are very lipophilic, which just means they like fat, they respond to it. So we got to consider from there biochemical responses, like in the gut microbiome, and responses to hunger and satiety and those kind of biochemical reactions in the gut. Now, here's why all of this matters in terms of metabolism mayhem and the subject at hand. Let's take women, for example. Menopause makes creating this fat burning metabolism factory, much more difficult. It's much harder for women after age 40, 45 to lose weight and keep it off. Now, does that mean it's impossible? No. But it does mean that ceaseless vigilance is the price tag. And no way you get away with the diet indiscretions that you used to get away with in your youth. And if you have a history of deprivation dieting, you may not end up seeing the ramifications and consequences of that till your later years, which just happens to have, a compounding effect of now you have menopause as well, which makes these things even more difficult, which creates even more metabolism mayhem, if you will. So what I'm driving at here is also the age factor, male or female. It's much harder to keep lean tissue, keep muscle, which is metabolically active, and it's harder to build muscle as we age past age 50, and it becomes much easier to put on fat, what a lot of people describe as the middle-age spread, for example. Now, why is this? Well, it's for the reasons I outlined above. Less sex hormones and increased cortisol levels are the opposite of what you want. So without hormone replacement therapy, you can become more of a fat-storing metabolism factory than a fat-burning metabolism factory, especially if you took these things for granted in your younger years. It just becomes easier to put on fat, store it as you age, and harder to take it off because of these hormonal drivers and how they are acting on metabolism. What else happens as we age? Sleep disruption and sleep dysregulation, especially in our 50s and older, is a very natural occurrence. Research doesn't really know why, but it's a very common experience people as they age. Well, what does that do? Well, sleep disruption and dysregulation and dysfunction increases cortisol levels as well. So that's what we call the negative feedback loop. As you get a sleep dysfunction, disruption, then you get more cortisol. Cortisol makes it easier to store fat, put on fat. As you can see, what I'm discussing here has little to do with calories in, calories out, calorie balance, and all the rest of it. And that's why people can be blindly hit over the head with metabolism mayhem and not know where it came from or why it's happening, why it's so much harder to lose weight now than it used to be, and it seems impossible even on a restricted diet. I think we are past the point now where people just assume that anyone who says they're following a restricted diet strategy is still not losing weight, that they're somehow just lying. I think now the research is pretty conclusive, and we have enough experts out there who deal with people who are overweight to realize that people they're not lying when they say they're following a regulated diet strategy, which should result in weight loss, but it's not. And this is because of the metabolism mayhem that people have built up over the years because of these metabolic drivers into creating a fat-storing metabolism factory rather than a fat-burning one. Now, this can be corrected, but it's not so easy as just eat this, not that, and count your calories. So when we combined gender and aging with another factor, stress, then you create a fat-storing metabolism factory that makes it difficult to take off excess fat no matter how frequently and intensely you exercise. So stress also increases cortisol levels. And to add to that negative feedback loop that I was talking about earlier, what is a likely consequence of feeling stress? More sleep disruption, more sleep dysregulation. What does that do? It increases cortisol as well. So you end up in this negative feedback loop where you are creating a fat-storing metabolism factory rather than a fat-burning one. And then even if you are in a calorie deficit, you're not experiencing the desired fat loss that you're after. Remember, fat loss, not weight loss. So that's very important as well. And you only add to this problem with poor food choices and magic diet solutions as well, especially deprivation diet solutions. They become a lot more problematic as you age and if you are an aging female. So the question here is, in terms of metabolism mayhem, how many cycles of diets and rebound weight gain and fat gain do you have to experience before you start realizing that there's a greater metabolic story to consider here that's not so simple as tracking apps that count calories, calories in and calories out, etc., etc. So stress can make you fat, make it harder to lose fat, lack of sleep, unregulated daily, hourly, daily, day-to-day schedules, unregulated meal times. These all affect the hormones that drive fuel partitioning toward fat storage rather than fat burning. So obviously then the reverse of that, the flip side of that coin, as part of the solution, is that regimentation and structure can go a long way toward creating the fat burning metabolism, and then the biochemical reactions that are influenced by these hormones create what we call positive feedback loop in terms of creating that fat burning metabolism factory. However, what you need to understand is your body thrives on homeostasis, which means it wants to stay exactly where it is. So creating a brand new metabolism fat burning factory when you have already standardized a fat storing metabolism factory, that's not going to happen overnight just because you eat this food or that food, or you believe in superfoods or magic supplements. These things are going to take time to repair and solve. So the most optimal solution to repairing metabolism mayhem is what I call a Groundhog Day approach to your life. Regular sleep and wake times, regular exercise times, regular and regimented meal times. This doesn't have to mean the same meal every single day, but it does require the same meal structure and pattern every day, no matter what diet strategy you may choose to follow. And the same with sleep and wake times. If your sleep is dysregulated, disrupted, interrupted, that kind of thing, you should still get up at the same time every day, not hit the snooze button on weekends and things like that, if you really want to correct metabolism mayhem. So it's very, very important, but you must keep in mind that solving metabolism issues, especially as you age, is not just about going on a diet. It's about fixing and optimizing metabolism in as realistic a way as possible, factoring in the changes that occur as we age and the hormonal shifts away from the sex hormones that help create the fat burning metabolism factory and into another shift that is more likely to create that fat storing metabolism factory, where the odds are already stacked against you, so the choices you make become even more important in terms of solving this. So that's metabolism mayhem. Why your metabolism may feel like it's broken, or is in fact broken and in need of repair, and how you can go about repairing that. I hope that made sense to you. If it did, by all means, please subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff that helps me to help you so I can keep doing this stuff. But a lot of people, again, they confuse metabolism with diet, and they confuse weight loss with fat loss, and they don't understand the metabolism drivers that you tend to be in either a fat storing metabolism factory or a fat burning metabolism factory. And as you age, you're more likely to shift into the fat storing metabolism factory, which can be very, very frustrating because you're trying to follow a healthier lifestyle and you're still not able to lose the fat, change your body, restructure, transform, physique transformation, etc., etc. So that's it. Metabolism mayhem. By all means, leave a comment. Tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what your experience is. And hopefully you benefited from this, and I will see you all in the next video.